There are dozens and dozens of 3D printing subscriptions out there, so let's take a look at some of the ones I've given my money to lately. Hey there, Philip here from Manning the Fort, and back in the summer of 2022, I made a video about some of the first subscription services for STLs that I had signed up to. Now, there will be a link to that video down below if you're interested in seeing those, but I will run through them very quickly here. That first video covered One Page Rules, Loot Studios, Bestiarum, Necropunks, Witch Song, and I think Print Minis. Just like with that video, none of these creators are sponsoring me. I paid for all these subscriptions with my own money, and I want to let you know a little bit about why and whether I think they might be right for you. If you're new to printing, the subscription model is by far the most economical way to get files to go onto your printer and then eventually onto your tabletop. For anywhere from $1 to $20 a month, you get anywhere from 1 to, in some cases, dozens of files on a monthly basis that you can then store and print out at your leisure. These subscriptions are often produced by independent artists and are distributed by places like My Mini Factory. Now, in that last video, I talked a lot about why I like the way that My Mini Factory does distribution, because you don't have to store all of the things locally. They store it on the cloud for you and just keep track of what licenses you have access to, basically. So you don't have to go out and buy, a few hard drives like I may or may not have done. Also, sites like My Mini Factory claim that they give over 90% of your subscription money to the artists, so I have no reason to believe that's not true, and if it is true, that's awesome. Let's start things off with a service that I subscribed to for a couple of months and might come back to, but it has a narrow enough focus that I need to be in the right mind space and game space in order to make great use of them. And that is Unit 9. Unit 9 makes some fantastic looking cyberpunk miniatures, and when I was first getting the PDF versions of Kill Sample Process, which is a cyberpunk adaptation of Forbidden Psalm, which is a tabletop adaptation of Merkborg, the RPG, it's very grim dark and has a very specifically gritty kind of look to it. Unit 9 had some stuff that really appealed to me, so I subbed for a couple of months. I printed off a few of their models. The pre-supports were generally pretty good, and overall, I'm quite pleased with them. Like I said, though, until I get back into a kind of cyberpunk mode, I might be giving them a break for a while. Now, the Unit 9 subscription is $10 a month, and for that, you get a good number of files. It is worth noting that their sign-up is through Patreon. At the time that I'm recording this, they're not on My Mini Factory's Tribes distribution system, but their actual distribution is through My Mini Factory, so you get all the benefits of not having to fumble with Google Drives every month. Next up is Station Forge. This is a $10 subscription, and if you're looking for one-to-one models that you could easily put on a table for Warhammer 40K and not really get any sideways looks, this is a good one. Plus, you get a lot of files in a given month. I was subscribed for, I think, 2 different monthly cycles, and it was just dozens and dozens of figures, from individual heroes to big vehicles and squads, everything in between. One thing I will say about Station Forge, and why it's not my absolute favorite at this point, despite the high quality of the models, is that they don't distribute them in the same way all of the time. 90% of the time, 90+% of the time, when you sign up for one of these, you're getting STLs. Many times you're getting pre-supported STLs, which for someone like me, who's kind of a dum-dum when it comes to using his printer, is fantastic. Station Forge, though, a lot of the time they'll distribute them in OBJ format, which is fine and can be converted over, but it is an extra step. So just something to bear in mind. Though sometimes they do give pre-supported STLs. I'm not sure what the reasoning is for the different means of distribution there. Next, I want to cover a subscription that has rapidly become one of my favorites, Mezgek. This one is $10 a month, and I'll say up front, you're not going to get the most minis per month out of this one, but what you don't get in breadth, you get in depth. And I mean that rather literally in this case, because what really drew me to this subscription is their Dredge line. They're these very capable proxies for Plague Marines, but with a very deep sea nautical kind of feel. They're wearing like diving bells and stuff like that. And as someone who never liked the traditional Nurgle aesthetic all that much, but liked the idea of playing them, this really appealed to me. As far as I can tell, it's a one-person operation, and they do a great job with some beautiful sculpts. And if you're not into the Plague Marine type of thing, they also make some fantastic orcs. In fact, I've got printed off a war boss that, you know, is joining the never-ending backlog that I have now that I've bought this printer. Probably the best way to sum up the aesthetic that Mezgek is going for with the dredge is the dreadnought, or I don't know if he calls it the dredgenaught or if I've just started calling it the dredgenaught. But anytime I can get a Chaos Space Marine dredgenaught that looks like a Big Daddy from BioShock, sign me up. Next, I want to talk about a company that is a relatively new player in the 3D printing space, but is a fairly common name if you're into buying third-party models in general, and that is CreatureCaster. CreatureCaster is famous for its big, nasty, beautiful-looking monsters. They make probably the second most famous proxy for a Nightbringer after a Coke can, of course. And there's just a beautiful line of very detailed models. And now they're offering STLs. I signed up for the first month. It's 12 months for the full subscription, and that gets you kind of the squad level, different people. They're often pretty villainous from what I've seen thus far, and then access to like one kind of bigger monster dude. And what's nice about that, though, is if you don't want to throw in $12 for a relatively small, and while $12 may seem like a lot for relatively few files, and comparatively speaking it is, these things are very highly detailed. But if that's still not your style, they do offer a plan that's, I think, just $3 American per month, and that gets you access to the big gribbly dude that they put out every month. And the first one was an absolute hit for me. There should be a picture of him on the screen now, and my first thought was they took a look at the Gellerpox infected and said, hold my beer. I will say one of the things I ran into with the squad size dudes, the scavengers or the ravagers or something along those lines, they had a lot of very fine ropes and chains, and I had some difficulty getting those off the supports without breaking them. Again, that might be because I'm a bit of a dum-dum and a smooth brain when it comes to 3D printing, but something to bear in mind if you're beginning. This last entry is one that's been around for a long time and is one of the biggest players on the scene, but I just started subscribing to, and that's Archvillain Games. They follow the trend of a lot of these bigger subscription services in that you get a lot of models every month. It's, I think, $10 for their base tier, but you're talking dozens of files. And I signed up because they did a theme, again, very strong on themes, a lot of these bigger organizations are, but they did one that reminded me of the best gas mask wearing Imperial Guardsmen in the entire galaxy. No, not those. The Armageddon Steel Legion. You can get Krieg models for days from a lot of really great artists out there, but it's a little bit more rare to find something that makes a good stand-in for the Armageddon Steel Legion, but Archvillain did it. So I signed up, and I'm really happy with the quality of the models that I got. I mostly bought them for the infantry-sized dudes, so I could play them in my type of skirmish-style games. But one thing Archvillain also does every month is they give you some big, big boys. There were some massive walkers in the March release that I don't know that I'll ever print, but it's kind of fun to know that I could if I ever wanted to make like a allied detachment of knights to go with my Armageddon Steel Legion, or like a feudal guard for one-page rules, something along those lines. Now, before I wrap up, I do want to revisit some of the ones that I covered in my first video, and we're going to start off with one-page rules. And as time has gone on, I have fallen more and more in love with the way one-page rules does things. In fact, there will probably be, if there hasn't already been, a video of me singing the praises of one-page rules. Now, Bestiarum is also turning the Grimdark up to 11 constantly with their fantasy range. I did give March a miss because turning Slanesh up to 11 wasn't exactly my vibe, but for April, they're going back to one of their classic lines, the Penitent Crusade. You can bet I'll be picking those up. Also, Print Minis is one that I sang the praises of a lot in that first video, and I'm still a big fan. I haven't subscribed every month since I made that video, but I have for the majority of months. One thing that seems to be happening with Print Minis is they're really leaning into the Necromunda vibe, which is really cool. I don't play a lot of Necromunda, but I do like the aesthetic. So if you're a Necromunda player or want some alternative stuff that kind of looks Necromunda-y for whatever game you happen to play, definitely give print minis a look. Now, I'm still subscribed to Which Song because it's $1, and I haven't actually printed any of their miniatures, but they look beautiful, and I might someday, and it's $1, so yay for that business model, I guess. I have let some go, and like Necropunks. And while I love the theme sets, they're fantastic if you're like a dungeon master who likes to go all in when it comes to set piece battles and that kind of thing. There were some themes that were just kind of misses for me. Also, the file organization isn't the best, though I do still plan to print their take on Nyarlathotep at some point. So this video is meant to give you kind of a rundown of where my STL subscription life is at as of the beginning of April 2023. I might do one of these every 6 months or so, just to kind of keep you refreshed in case you're interested, and also give you a chance to tell me some that I might should take a look at. If I've missed out on your favorite subscription service, let me know. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel's been going through some steady growth even when I had to take a step back there for a while. And I'm actually going to be recording 3 videos, bang, bang, bang here. So hopefully we'll be able to get ahead on content a little bit as I have some more real life stuff coming up. Also, if you're interested at all in supporting the channel directly, I do have a Patreon. There's a link down below. A huge thank you to my current patrons who are on screen right now. And if you're interested in how I feel in general after 6 months of owning a 3D printer, that video is on screen now. Until next time, I hope your pile of shame is growing slower than mine, and thanks for watching.